Welcome to vlog number 16. Today is a recap of the 2017 METC conference in St. Charles. Hello and welcome back to the vlog. Today is a recap of the recent 2017 METC conference. I just finished 2 days here in St. Charles and wanted to spend just a little bit of time talking about the conference. This is one of my favorite conferences. I used to go to it on a semi-regularly basis, and then for whatever reason our parent-teacher conference schedule at the school where I teach was always the same time as this conference, and because it's in St. Louis, it just never really worked out. And this year there was a schedule change, so I was able to attend and presented 2 sessions. I did both sessions on Tuesday, the first day of the conference, and then today was more of a 10-day, and I could really go do a lot of sessions and things. So I wanted to do a little recap, took some video during the day, and I wanted to talk just a little bit about this conference. The conference is a fairly large conference. I believe there are over 2,000 attendees, and Stephanie Madlinger does a great job of organizing the conference. When I talked to her today, I believe she said there were something like 22 different states represented. And even though there's a lot of people here, I feel like they do a great job of making it feel very kind of like, not small, but very personal. And lots of connections. I was able to talk to a lot of people that I know from different ed tech things. A lot of times there's people that tend to do a ton of stuff over here on the St. Louis side, and I see them at different conferences. So it's always nice to kind of get a different feel, different kind of network. And I was able to talk to a lot of people that I haven't seen for a while. And just for that reason, it was a great conference. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the sessions and how the presentations went as well. So the first day of the conference was a busy one. I did 2 sessions. The first one that I presented was with Dr. Jeanette Westphal. She is the Director of Curriculum at Liberty. And we talked about how we've been incorporating OER, Open Educational Resources at Liberty. And I thought it went really well. Dr. Westphal and I work together on OER stuff all the time. We present on it quite a bit, but we don't typically present together. So the session we did was a little bit of me talking about OER from a teacher perspective, and then she talked about it from the administrative perspective and some of the legal issues and things like that. Well attended. We had a lot of people there, and lots of connections, lots of people that I think we'll follow up with later. So that went really well. And then the second session that I did was a session on 3D printing in the classroom. And that's a session that I've done quite a bit over the last couple months. And I did bring my 3D printer, so it's always nice to kind of have that on the table and have people come up and see. And obviously with the 3D printer, there's a lot of like visuals and props, and I bring quite a few things that my students have designed and things that we've printed. So I thought that session went really well. Lots of people had some great ideas and questions, talked to some other teachers that are doing some similar things in their classroom. So I presented, but I also came away with a lot of really good follow-up ideas that I can do in my own classroom. So yesterday was a really busy day. We presented both of those before about 2 o'clock or so, and then I networked with a couple of people, talked to some people that I hadn't seen for a while. So yesterday was kind of like a crazy busy prepare, especially with the 3D printer, getting everything set up, being able to move the printer afterwards. And then today I was able to really be more of an attendee, and I was able to go do a lot of sessions today. So kind of a little bit different, but today I was able to really learn a lot. So in terms of sessions, had some great sessions today. The first one was a keynote from Jenny Magera. She's an educator and administrator from Chicago. She's someone that I've met through different Google things. I listened to her keynote last year at NEDA, and she recently did a book called Courageous Adventures, and she does a great keynote. It's humorous, has some great connections, a very motivating message. So that's a great way to start the day. And then my first session after the keynote was by Hall Davidson. Hall Davidson is a great person in terms of media, video, and he did a session on how to create a film festival for your school, your district, or even at like a state level. And he did a great job with that. That's something that I've talked about doing at Liberty, and I'd like to eventually do at some point. So he had some good tips and ideas on how to create that film festival. And it's always nice to kind of have a little bit of some PD in terms of broadcasting. Since most of the PD that I go to is social studies based, today I was able to go to several things that were related to media, video, or broadcasting. My third session of the day was also on digital media. It was by two people that I know well on social media and both in real life. Don Goebel from the St. Louis area here, and then also Carol Welty. She's from Independence. They did one on digital storytelling in the classroom. So it's just a hodgepodge of great ideas about little projects you can do with your class. Talked about several neat apps you want to check out. Just overall, for someone that does a lot of video in the classroom, some great ideas, some great kind of connections to build upon. Really enjoyed their session, lots of energy. They're both great presenters, and so that was a really fun session to go to as well. Later in the afternoon, I did go to a second Hall Davidson one, and he did one on augmented reality, talked about Eurasma, talked about Google Cardboard, just a whole bunch of different ways that people are using those tools. A lot of them I was familiar with already, but there were a couple things here and there that were kind of good tidbits that I can also take home. So all in all, today was a great day. Went to about 5 sessions. And then in addition to that, I also went down to the exhibit floor, and I did find some really good connections to things for projects that I want to work on in the future. Now, at a lot of conferences, I don't get a lot out of the exhibit floor other than picking up a little bit of swag and some pens here and there, but today was a pretty good day. I was able to find a couple of things that as an individual classroom teacher, I could potentially use with some grants. I can purchase on my own and use in my classroom. And the one thing that I saw on the exhibit floor inside the hall that I really enjoyed was at the Best Buy table. And they had a drone there made by Robo. And what you do is you buy the drone, but you actually 3D print the body of the drone. So you're essentially purchasing the components and the controller, the different parts to it, and then there's several different configurations that you can use, and then you can also customize and modify a little bit. So you're making the STL file and then printing it and then building the drone. So I've got a little bit of money from a recent grant from MSTA to purchase some drones, and the drone that I looked at today was about $80. So I think I'm going to use some of that grant money to purchase one of those. I think it'll be a fun activity for my students in technology class to be able to design and print their own drone body and then actually be able to fly it. So that was definitely a win-win. I was able to talk to a couple of reps from Best Buy. I was able to talk to one of the people there from Robo. So that was a very good stop and meet and talk, and something that I will definitely add to my classroom. The second product that I found beneficial today was actually out in the hall. They had a table set up, and it's a local product. It's made or based here in St. Louis, and it's called Voxels. And it's kind of hard to describe until you actually see it, but essentially you have a base that has a whole bunch of squares in it, and then you've got 7 different colors of cubes. You got green and yellow and red, and what you're creating is kind of like a map for a game. So certain colors mean certain things, and I can't remember the exact colors, but like one of them is a coin, one of them is for text, one of them is that you can power up, one of them is like an attacker or kind of like an enemy. So you create your game on this board, and then you take a picture of it with an iPad or a cell phone that has the Voxels app, and then it creates a game, and you can kind of build in different rooms, and then once you have it created, you can do different things, like maybe the part where they're running you can make into brick or stone or wood. So it looked really cool, and my daughters really like to do a lot of code and Scratch and things like that, so I thought it'd be kind of interesting. So I did end up purchasing one of those individual sets for just our own family to use. I imagine at some point it'll probably make its way into our classroom, but kind of a cool activity. It's, you're doing some coding, you're doing some gaming. I also talked to them a little bit about some different ways you could incorporate like some actual stories and kind of like choose your own adventure type things. So that was a really neat product. Ended up purchasing it. They were actually out. They sold out at the convention, which is great, and they're going to send it to me. So I'll probably do a vlog at some point about that once my daughters had a chance to use it. But that was a great product. So I really came away from the conference with 2 things that will eventually physically be in my classroom and I'll use with my students. So that's a wrap from METC 2017. Great conference. Hoping on coming back next year. Next year will be the 35th. I know they have some great things planned for next year's conference as well. Definitely check it out if you're in the Midwest or even outside the Midwest. Like I said, there were over 20 states represented at the conference this week. So definitely check it out. It's got a great regional flair, but a lot of national people as well. So I'm done with METC. I'm still here in St. Charles. We're gearing up for the State Social Studies Conference, which is MCSS, the Missouri Council for Social Studies. So I'm going to do some historical stuff here in St. Charles tomorrow. Probably go down to the boathouse and look at the Lewis and Clark replica. Hopefully do a vlog on that tomorrow. But a great conference on tech. And now we're going to kind of build the bridge and have a great conference with social studies. So definitely subscribe to the vlog. I'm going to try and be doing more and more of these. So I'm going to be working on the quality. I did not bring my snowball mic, so the audio on the last couple has not been on par with what I typically do. But I'm trying to get over the idea of making everything perfect and instead just really getting some content out. So stay with me. It's going to progressively get better. But subscribe, and I think you'll see a lot more content in the coming weeks. So that's going to be a wrap. Remember, history is so much more than just a bunch of boring old dead guys. Until next time, see you.